Hey, what's up everybody? In this video, I'm going to review Floyd Leech from the Twisted Wonderland series. His ability description is clears vertical lines as well as the bottom of the screen. The current game demonstration that you're watching right now is a skill level 1 game demonstration with a 5-4 boost on. So let's take a look at his stats. In order to activate his ability, you will need to clear a total of 17 copies of Floyd Leech off the screen. And 17 is considered on the lower end, which means that you'll be able to activate a lot of abilities per game. His minimum score is 70 with a maximum score of 1197. So for a maximum score, it's pretty good. I think that if you combine it with his ability, you could definitely use Floyd Leech as a good score earner. And in terms of getting him to skill level 6, you will need to get a total of 36 copies of him from the premium box or using skill tickets. That's also on the average range. It's not too high and not too low. And looking at the skill chart here, every single time you level up his ability, the skill range is going to increase by a small size. So you start off with extra small, and then as you progress, you could get all the way up to extra large. And Floyd Leech's ability does have two components. It does have that vertical line clear, as well as it clearing the bottom portion of the screen. And the skill range, the size there, does encompass both, so the vertical clear as well as the bottom clear. And before I go any further, if you guys are enjoying this type of content where I review zooms, do monthly leaks, or go over the selection box and pick up capsules, please consider subscribing to the channel. Your subscription is greatly appreciated. And if you guys are looking for a community of Tsum Tsum players, you might also be interested in my Discord server. On the Discord server, you can ask for help, trade hearts, discuss different characters to use, strategies, or just talk about the game in general. You can scan this QR code on the screen to join the Discord server. I will also have invite links in the video description down below as well. Okay, so let's take a look at all 6 of the skill level for Floyd Leech, starting with skill level 1, 2, and 3. The 3 major differences here is the skill range. At skill level 1, the skill range is going to be extra small. Skill level 2, the skill range will be small. And skill level 3, the skill range is going to be medium. And like I mentioned earlier, the skill range is going to be in reference to the vertical clear as well as the bottom of the screen as well. So it is going to impact 2 different areas. Now I do have 2 different strategies that I would recommend when using Floyd Leech. If you notice, during his ability time, the screen does not freeze. So what that means is that the zooms will continue to fall to the bottom of the screen as you play or as the animation goes through. So essentially what you want to do is you want to use the overcharge effect to decrease the amount of zooms that's needed to activate the next ability. So for Floyd Leech, the ability count is going to be 17. So you need to clear 17 of him to activate the ability. But if you use the overcharge, it's going to be less than 17. Depending on how many overcharges you clear off the first ability, that's going to determine how many you need for the second ability. So decreasing the amount that you need to activate the next ability is going to allow you to activate more abilities per game. Essentially, that means earning more coins and a higher score as well. So that's the first strategy. The next thing you should do is you also want to burst the bubbles off the screen before activating Floyd Leech's ability. And I'll show you why that is. If you take a look at the gameplay say for skill level 1, 2, and 3, I didn't do that. I was still trying to figure out what the best strategy was. I was trying to play as fast as possible. So that's why you see a lot of bubbles on the screen. But ultimately, you want to just probably keep one or actually none of the bubbles on the screen for Floyd Leech. Clear off all of the bubbles before activating the ability. Every single time you activate the ability, you're going to end up with 2 magic bubbles after the animation plays through anyways, and I would also recommend you to burst those 2 bubbles immediately after the ability time is over. Of course, there are variables. If your fever time is about to run out, you might want to wait a couple of seconds for the fever to complete, then use those bubbles to try to get yourself back into fever time as quickly as possible. Now the next thing I want to show you guys is a side-by-side comparison of the abilities activated at the same time. Now what I'm also going to do is I'm going to slow down the animation during the ability time and show you exactly what's happening. So I'm going to go over the first vertical clear here. As you can see here, skill level 1 I got a clear of 16. Skill level 2 the chain is 24 and 27 for skill level 3. So this is just to show you that the skill range does increase for the vertical clear, and ideally you want as little bubbles on the screen as possible. Now this is going to be the second portion of the animation, which is the bottom of the screen. As you could see, at skill level 3, I did end up with 2 bubbles on the screen there. So theoretically, I should have got a chain of 22 instead of 21 because a bubble did take up that space. And I think that if you stretch it, you probably could have got 23 because there was a hole there as well. But for skill level 1, I ended up with 17 and 19 for skill level 2. So these are still relatively low level Floyd Leeches. So if you have him at a higher level, you could definitely get a higher chain. But ultimately, you want to have as little bubbles on the screen during the ability time, so that way they don't get in the way essentially. As you see there, skill level 3, I did have 1 bubble, but the least amount of bubbles on the screen, the better for the ability time. Moving on to skill level 4, 5, and 6. And at skill level 4, the skill range is going to be large, extra large for skill level 5, and then finally for skill level 6, it's going to be extra large. So this is also going to be the same compared to skill level 1, 2, and 3. The vertical clear as well as the bottom of the screen will be impacted by the skill range. And the strategy here remains the same. But because you're going to be able to clear a lot more zooms off the screen for the vertical clear as well as the bottom of the screen, you have a much higher opportunity to get abilities back to back. So that's why the overcharge is going to be very important, and bursting bubbles after the ability time is also going to be important. That will allow you to go back-to-back abilities, especially if you get lucky, a lot more often. For these 3 gameplays, I didn't get super lucky in terms of getting back-to-back abilities, especially for skill level 6. That was because likely these were my first attempts at all of these skill levels. So I think with some practice, I could definitely get a higher coin count as well as a higher score as well. But I wanted to get these videos out to you guys as soon as possible, just to show you guys some of the strategies that I use in case you want to implement them for your use cases. Okay, so let's take a look at the abilities activated at the same time at these higher skill level. So same thing, I am going to slow this down to show you what's happening exactly here. So very similar to the lower skill level, the vertical clear does increase. At skill level 4, I got a chain of 23, 24 for skill level 5, and a chain of 31 for skill level 6. And if you take a look at the skill range here for these higher skill level 6, it's pretty much the entire screen. And for these higher skill level, I did make sure that I only had 1 bubble on the screen or no bubbles on the screen. So that way when these animation play through, it would generate the bubble on their own. So skill level 4, I got a chain of 27, 28 for skill level 5, and 30 for skill level 6. And if you take a look at the ability bar here, you can see that it's already 50% charged up for skill level 5 and 6. So this is just to show you that it's very easy to get back-to-back abilities. I only probably had to get another 7 or 8 zooms cleared off the screen to activate the ability for skill level 5 and 6. And if you have bubbles on the screen, that could very well help you. And you're guaranteed 2 bubbles immediately after the ability is over. So if you get lucky and have some Floyd Leeches in that area, you're very likely to get back-to-back abilities. Now my overall take on Floyd Leech is that he's an okay Zoom. I would say in terms of coin earnings, he's pretty average. It's not necessarily assumed that you need to go out and get, but because his ability is very beginner friendly and generates a decent amount of bubbles as well, he could be a viable Zoom to collect. Now I wouldn't necessarily say use your skill tickets to get him to skill level 6 right away. I think that at the lower levels he's really not that great. You do need to get him to skill level 6, I would say, to be able to use as a coin earner, but then you're spending a lot of skill tickets. So for that reason, I don't recommend using skill tickets on him. But if you want a Zoom that's easy to use and pretty fun to use, Floyd Leech is a good option for that. So now let me show you the results for all 6 of these gameplays. At skill level 1, I ended with 1,340 coins, which is not that great, and ended with 4.6 million points. So skill level 1, they were my first attempts, so not that amazing in terms of coins as well as for score. Now if you are thinking about using this Zoom as a coin earner, you're likely going to want to use the 5-4 and coin boost, and you could technically start doing that at skill level 4, but realistically you're going to want him at skill level 5 or skill level 6. And if you take a look at the difference between skill level 5 and skill level 6, you do see a decent amount of change, but there are a total of 12 different Zooms difference there. So meaning that you would need to invest to either 12 skill tickets or try to get 12 more copies of Floyd Leech to go from skill level 5 and skill level 6. And for that reason, I don't think it's really worth it. I think that if you are trying to just use Floyd Leech as a decent coin earner, skill level 4 is probably the most investment I would recommend you to get. I think if you play a little bit faster and use a strategy that I recommend, you could average about 3,000 coins per game. You just need to do the strategy right and play a little bit faster. Like I mentioned, these gameplays that I had here were first attempts at all of these skill levels, so nothing perfected in any way. So I definitely think that 3,000 coins at skill level 4 is very possible. And it's fine, I think, at skill level 4, but anything beyond that is going to be a heavy investment that I don't recommend for Floyd Leech. So that's my review of Floyd Leech. I hope that you guys found this video helpful or at least entertaining. And if you'd like to see more Tsum Tsum content just like this, don't forget to subscribe. And as always, thank you so much for watching.